What up, y'all? It's your host, I2I35, and in this video, I just want to show you the Lord knows what He is doing. He does not fool around. For example, the many things He said in the Old Testament, like He told the Israelites to do something, and basically they took Him as a word and did it. And basically, 1,000 years later, thousands of years later, science figures out that what God said a long time ago is like He had a reason why He was saying it. God always knows what He is doing, and there's a logical reason for why He's doing things. For example, when someone has leprosy, they were supposed to go outside of the camp and say and cover their mouth with a cloth, and get covered up and say unclean, unclean, because cover their mouth because you don't want to spread diseases. You don't want another person to catch leprosy. And for example, close marriages, and even close marriages, God said they were no longer allowed to marry close relations. And people like to say, oh, Bible incest, ha 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 ha. Well, when was the law of no incest given? In Leviticus, when close, like sisters or brothers could no longer marry, cousins could no longer marry, because God knew that if they get married, they're going to have deformed children. And basically, closer relations are going to have those same, like, deformed genes, and they're going to have deformed children. God didn't want any deformed children. And these mutations were basically a result of sin finally catching up. Kind of like catching up now. These mutations started, like, developing after the curse of sin, and they are basically a mistake in our genetic information. And it just makes us get worse. And the killing off of the Nephilim, if you think like, killing off the Canaanites, the Ammonites, Philistines, whatever in the land of Israel, these folks were like giant people, Nephilim. I mean, if the Israelites did not kill them off, the Israelites would have been wiped out. They would have been killed off like that. Basically, God was doing something to preserve the Israelite Hebrew line in order for the Messiah to eventually come out. If you think that like killing off these people, these like Nephilim were so like evil or whatever, it was an act of justice. And the same way with the Israel Defense Force right now in Israel today, that they have to defend themselves from their surrounding neighbors. Even back then they had surrounding neighbors that were so threatening and violent. The Bible clearly says, they walketh in the night with a sword by their side for fear in the night. And also, having to do with like circumcision on the 8th day. Basically, it's been recently figured out. Medical science has only recently discovered that blood clotting in a newborn baby reaches its peak on the 8th day, and then it drops. The Bible consistently says that a baby must be circumcised on the 8th day, because that's a perfect time to do it. Later or earlier is going to be bad for the baby. Circumcision on the 8th day, God knew what He was doing. Basically, at least the Jews had the smartness and the intelligence to take God at His word and knew that His authority is final and to do as He says. And if a lot of you thinking, oh, well, on the Sabbath they were supposed to like kill anyone who doesn't work on the Sabbath, that does not go for Christians. Basically, that is to help Christians understand the history that the Jews went to. Well, the reason why they kind of like just killed them off like that, it's because like dealing with them would have been too hard. They just like it would have been better off just to kill them like that. Not out of like evilness, but basically out of mercy. Basically, just dealing with them would have been like no use. It would have been better just kill them. Boom, they killed them like that. I mean, Venom Fan X has already explained this to you, and especially when a lot of things in the Bible where God, for example, washing your hands in running water. The Bible said, when you wash your hands, you're supposed to do it in running water. Because washing your hands in a bowl of water is just going to, get all the goop and disgusting diseases in there. And you're going to spread it to another person. It's best to wash it in running water. Because that's a scientific thing as to where, you're going to spread diseases. I mean, God knows what He is doing. It's just a little list of thousands of examples of why God, the Lord knows what He is doing. He does not fool around. His ways are always higher than ours, and for us to think, oh, I know everything about God, He's stupid, is really shallow thinking. Just such shallow thinking. It's nothing more foolish. I can think of nothing more foolish than that. Just thinking you know everything about God, thinking that, when basically you don't. You don't understand anything about God. You're just sticking to your own preconceived ideas and hallucinated oxymorons and just want to think God is evil and stuff like. There is a reason for every single verse in the Bible to be to be in the Bible. There's a reason, there's so much behind each verse in the Bible. And there's a verse in the Bible that says all things work together for good. Basically jumping around in the Bible, finding the parts that you don't like, that's not gonna get you anywhere. For example, there was one guy who wanted to commit suicide, and he said, "Oh, just before I commit suicide, I'll see what the Bible says." And he decided to flip open the Bible and point to a certain verse, and he came to a verse that said, Judas hanged himself. And he said, no, I'll go to another place. And then he went to another place, and it said, and Jesus said, "Go therefore and do so likewise." See, jumping around the Bible like that, you can create a whole bunch of nonsense. But reading it one after another to the whole Bible, you'll understand that it's God's informative love letter. Basically, God to inform you about a lot of things, and His love for you, that He loves you, He wants you to come to heaven, He doesn't want you to go to hell, and so on. And that His fingerprint of creation is evident in this earth, and that we are created to learn. We are created with a God-given conscience to determine right and wrong, but Satan is going to do anything he can to destroy that conscience. We are created to be good people. Since we are created in God's image, He's good and we're good. We want to be good. But Satan is going to do anything he can to destroy that consciousness of good. And so, God knows what He is doing. God knows what He's doing. He does not mess around. He does not fool around. If George Carlin tries to say, "Oh, Joe Pesci, he doesn't F around." God does not fool around. He knows what He's doing, and His promises have never failed. So, peace out. Keep thinking, y'all. Jesus bless you. And TTFN, ta-ta for now.